Hello, everyone. So, welcome to Time for Emerging Markets, Doers Within Emerging Markets. I'm humbled and excited to have uh, JJ. I call him JJ, but no, his name is Jezreel Punzalan. And such an amazing guy. I met him in Korea, South Korea, 2 years ago, while I was working and volunteering as one of the organizers for APYE Korea, no, one of the mentors rather, and it was such an exciting opportunity, and I was really, really humbled and fortunate to meet JJ. And we are here with JJ, and he is just an amazing guy. Has a great story, based in the Philippines, and it's just really awesome to have him. So, welcome, JJ. How are you today?
All right. Hello, Jacob, and hello to everyone listening to this podcast. It is actually my first time to be featured in a podcast, which makes this very, very exciting for me. Hello, everyone. From my side of the world, it's actually 2 in the morning as we record this, but I hope that all of you guys are comfortable when you're listening to this after this is published. My name is JJ Punzalan, and currently I am 21 years old, and I have devoted 3 years of my career working for the development sector. So that means working with capacity building program for young people, where I met Jacob, and then eventually working for for an international organization such as Plan International, where I was the young professional officer for the Asian Development Bank and Plan International Partnership. After that, I've decided that since the pandemic has been giving us, the biggest headaches these days, like my friend and I, my best friend and I actually thought of actually starting our own business since it's been in incubation for almost a year now. And with that, I proudly introduce you to Hibla Community. So Hibla Community Incorporated is a small business which just started September of 2020. So we are a small business based here in the Philippines whose goal is to really follow the social enterprise model of business so that we would be able to support everyone around us with the best and the ethical and the most dignified kind of job and work experience. So right now, Hibla Community Incorporated is doing business as Magiting Coffee Manila. So Magiting is a Filipino word which means noble. So this is Magiting Coffee Manila, and we've been happily serving fresh single origin specialty coffee nationwide in the Philippines for almost 4 months now, and things have been doing great. So thank you so much, Jacob, for inviting me here today to talk about the best practices and our points to improve on as well.
Amazing, amazing. And he's just 21 years old. And but by the way, thank you for staying up at 2 a.m. to do this. I'm sure.
I know, Jacob. I drank Sprite for this.
So excited, and thank you so much. So, but before we get into Hibla, I just wanted to let the listeners just learn a little bit about yourself. How was it like growing up? Who are the people that really kind of give you the support for you to become who you are today, such an
Mhm.
amazing entrepreneur. If you can just share a little bit with us, what it was like growing up in the Philippines, and I mean, there are some of the mentors that you have had along the way.
All right. Actually, I grew up in many places. So, first, I grew up in my province, which is Batangas. That's where I was born. And I was with my grandmother back then up until I was 4 years old, I think. I may not fully remember everything that happened during those childhood years, but I still believe that that really put a very important foundation on who I was and who I would think, because growing up with my grandmother and growing up with the whole community, it just felt like it really took a village to raise a child, and that's how it felt like in the province. And then eventually I moved to the city with my parents because education is so much better in the city. And then growing up, I think I was basically your funny kid, like I'm not that star student like how usual people are, like the straight A's. I was
Yeah.
doing good in school, but not the ultimate valedictorian straight A's. I was always the funny guy, but my teachers would always comment uh, on how empathetic I am. It's like on how
Yeah.
much I could relate to people, on how much I could get on their soft side to let them be comfortable around me. And growing up, I was really, as you can see right now, I'm very talkative. So growing up, I
Yeah.
was the same. I'm really a person of communication. I love talking to people, and um, I think growing up, what was really in my head growing up was when I grow up, I wanted to career where I would be able to help people because at the time I didn't know about development work. I just knew that if you want to help people, then that will be volunteer. It can't be a career. It's just a volunteer thing. Until back in 2018 when I was introduced to the Asia Pacific Youth Exchange. And that's when I realized, like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been wanting all my life.
Yeah.
Helping, it's like helping other people, but at the same time, making sure that you are also helping yourself by building yourself financially, economically and physically and all that. So, growing up as an adult, I was able to be mentored by people around my network who were really inspirational, and I think that's what really pushed me eventually to take, as what we say in Magiting Coffee, to take the fearless step of being an entrepreneur, especially in a time like this in the pandemic.
And that's amazing. And I mean, just other things that I've really admired about you, in addition to just who you've become. You're a very confident person. You're very, very funny. I know you made me laugh. So you made me laugh so much in when I was in South Korea, and it was such a pleasure to have you among our midst. And it's something that actually transcends most of the other amazing work you're doing at Hibla Community, which we're gonna hear in a few minutes. Just talk a little bit about like who are the people that like how did you get into entrepreneurship? I mean, you mentioned APYE,
Hmm.
but how did entrepreneurship become a thing? Sometimes we really wrestle with whether we're entrepreneurs or not, but
Hmm.
how did that how did this journey really come to fruition beyond before Hitler? What was the thing that really convinced you to kind of be on this path, right?
Well, to be honest with you, I never saw myself in business. Like
Mm,
I knew I would be doing something great. I just knew that. I don't know what it would be when I was a kid, but I just knew that I was destined for something. Although I was always praying to God that I hope that this something would be good for everyone, not just for me. But growing up, I never saw myself in business until APYA happened, and we've been taught on how important it is to be social entrepreneurs. And I
exactly.
think I think the cultivation that APYE has done to me as a young person, as part of the youth force, that has greatly helped in convincing me to become an entrepreneur. Because eventually in the world you realize that it's just two things. Sometimes you grow up without privilege, and on the other side of the coin you grow up with privilege. And for some reason I grew up with privilege, and what should I do with that privilege? That's when I realized it's my turn to extend that privilege to people who don't have that, and make sure that they would also get um, at least their shot in the future.
Yeah.
So that's how the trajectory happened. That's how I decided to become an entrepreneur. And at the same time, I wasn't doing all of this alone.
Yeah.
There were always people behind my back supporting me. There I had mentors who were really honest with me and my ideas on how to make them better. And at the same time, of course, I have my best friend who is also my co-founder in Hibla Community. And what I like about our synergy is we think differently, but our goals are the same.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And I think that's very important for I am saying this story because I'm not like the other star entrepreneurs out there who are, the hot shots,
Yeah.
best in finance, good in math, and all that, have this grew up with, you know, the Lamborghinis and stuff. Like I'm not that. I'm this normal kid from the Philippines who had a dream and who had a heart for other people. And if you are like me, then I would suggest that it's a very good step to make sure that you allow yourself to be open to criticism, and be open to criticism from people you trust, from your friends.
Yep.
A support system is important, because without a support system you won't be able to stand on yourself, on your own feet confidently, right? So
Yes,
I think that's
definitely.
very important.
And that's, I think you've inspired our people right now with that. And not just in Asia, but in Africa, in the United States, with those very you're so you're very knowledgeable, and you actually have some keen insights on how we need to kind of present ourselves, especially in the space of
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. But I love the fact that that process of becoming one was something that was based on social impact. So that's really humbling, and thanks so much for being vulnerable to share that. So now to get into the exciting part, can you tell us a little bit about Hibla Community? Um, Yes.
All right, so I have been so we've been very excited, really, really, to share with you guys a little story about Hibla Community, because for starters, Hibla Community was actually an idea that my best friend and I had in October 2019. I still remember that because I invited her to join me to go to our province because we had a little celebration back then. And then we realized, hey, we have been working for the development sector for about 2 years now, and yet we still haven't done something for our home community. Like in my case, how come I was able to fly to Korea? How come I am able to fly to different parts of the Philippines and yet still not do anything for my community? When in fact I am already equipped with, you know, like the knowledge and the
Oh,
network and the opportunities to be able to start something. So that's when Hibla Community started. So my best friend and I thought, okay, let's not rush things, and let's start of thinking different ideas on what could end up helping this community. And then eventually, because the goal for Hibla Community is to first start in one small community, and then eventually replicate this model to other communities, focusing on their own strengths. So for example, the community that we chose at the time was my hometown, and my hometown focused solely on agriculture, and the women were really good at the ready-made garment industry. They were
mm,
good at sewing.
mm.
So at the time, excuse me, at the time, what we really thought was, okay, we need to, oh wow, I'm burping a lot, sorry. So
No,
at
it's
the
all good.
time, we really need to revitalize this whole sewing industry, and maybe we could do something about it. So that's how the whole idea of Hibla Community started. But of course, because COVID-19 happened,
Yes.
because the pandemic locked us in our houses,
Yeah.
we couldn't really go and step into the communities, because even the people of the community were hesitant to welcome us because we were from the city and we might bring the virus to them. And most of the people in the community were elderly and they are high risk for the virus. So we
Yeah.
chose to switch it up a bit,
Mhm.
and we tried to think of what could be the best possible option for us to start Hibla Co
Yeah.
without actually putting at risk to the lives of the people.
Yep.
And so that is when Magiting Coffee Manila happened.
Yep.
So before I tell you guys about Magiting Coffee Manila,
Yep.
I'll give you guys a little background about why we call it Hibla Community.
Exactly. That was my
So,
question.
okay, so um, well, Hibla Community Hibla Community is abbreviated through the word Hibla Co. So what does that mean? So the word Hibla is a Tagalog word, like a Filipino word, which means fiber, and community is a collective group of people. Now, ko is a possessive noun in the Tagalog language, which means to claim ownership of something. So Hibla Co follows the principle of how cloth is made, starting with a single fiber, Hibla, and when woven together by a community, turns into something more beautiful. So that's why we named it Hibla Community. So when one says Hibla Co, it echoes Hibla Co. And in English, that translates to my fiber. So that's a community of single fibers creating a beautifully woven cloth. So that's why we call it Hiblako. So at the end of it all, that is the heart of Hiblako, empowering people, especially mothers, especially women, especially young people, to create lasting impact in a specific industry with their individual yet collective contributions. So um, that is why if you look at our logo here, we have logos presented here on our Zoom. This
Definitely.
one is this is what I've been telling you guys about. So you can see this is Hibla Community,
Yes.
but you can abbreviate it to here. You can
Yes.
abbreviate it to Hibla Co. So when you say Hibla Co, it's like the abbreviation of Hibla Community, but in my language, Hibla Co also means my fiber. And so
Beautiful.
here at the left side, this is what we are. So Hibla Community is a community enhancing community. So Hibla Co is a community enhancing community, which means that if one person is empowered, it's a chain reaction and everyone else will be empowered.
So
That's what
it's
we that is the main goal of Hibla Community. I think even if, for example, God blesses us with the opportunity to expand, to greater heights and to be a big business enterprise. I think that would always be the heart of Hiblaco, to make sure that we are a community enhancing community, because without that, then the whole purpose of social entrepreneurship would be gone.
definitely, man, this is so beautiful, and I love the fact that we're talking about this before we got on the podcast, but it is incredibly beautiful, and I think that transcends into the products you're making. And when we get into the coffee, community enhancing community is, I think that's really beautiful. And can you just talk a little bit about the picture at the back? Right, you mentioned to me.
Oh, okay. So actually, you guys, this picture at the back, this is actually my province right now. This is my view in my province. So I live in Batangas. I live in San Luis, Batangas, and this is my province. This is the view that we have every sunrise. So the
Mm,
field that you see is
mm,
part of our agriculture resource, which is sugarcane, where we create where sugar comes from and other candied goods. And we also have trees for mangoes, and we have a lot of coconuts as well. So this view, I could have easily gotten a beautiful picture at Pinterest,
yeah.
but I was reminded that if I want things to be very organic, I really had to get it from where Hibla community started. So that's why I chose this picture.
Oh man, everything is just beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for giving a background about background information about that. And going now into the coffee, tell us a little bit about this coffee, Magiting Coffee Manila. Um, would love to hear more.
All right. So, Magiting Coffee Manila is, let's say, Hibla community is doing business as Magiting
Mm,
Coffee Manila. So we present our brand to our target market as Magiting Coffee Manila. So Magiting Coffee Manila is a small business that offers single origin specialty coffee nationwide and hopefully eventually abroad when things have been better. So how do we do how do we do Magiting Coffee Manila? So first is we have our partner farm, also based in Batangas. Since you remember how I mentioned that we couldn't actually work with my community because of the restrictions of COVID. So
yeah.
with that, we transitioned to looking for a partner farm in the same province that we could work with to source our coffee. So right now we are partnered with a farm in Lipa, Batangas, which is also the same province as my hometown. And we have one staff. So her name is Ati Mercy. And Ati Mercy is a part of our very small workforce. So there's only three of us right now, which is very exciting. And
Okay.
what we love about this working environment is Ate Mercy is also, since she is also our staff,
Mhm.
she is also part of our profit distribution. So aside from the fact that we earn something from Magiting Coffee monthly, a portion of our profits would also be stored for the sake of Ate Mercy, so that we are already practicing this right now, even if we're still a very small business, so that this would be a best practice eventually when we transition to become bigger in the future, in the long run. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that the process would be authentic and true from the start, even as we progress. So right now, even if let's say we are gaining not that much yet, since Magiting Coffee has been only starting, has only been up for about 4 months. We have already been practicing this method of profit distribution with our staff, with our beneficiaries, to make sure that eventually in the long run, we would learn how to better use this to be effective for our business model.
That is amazing. I mean, profit sharing at the very start, I think that's the right way to go. And that's a right business, social impact business way of thinking. And so excited you guys started at at the very beginning. Um, just going out to a little bit of logistics. How is it like getting the coffee from the farm, to processing it, to getting in the packages? Like, can you just share a little bit about that? Um,
All right, so this is how the process goes. So first is we, of course, we talk to our partner farm, and then we arrange the logistical manner because from where we are based, Magiting Coffee is actually based in Manila right now, which is the capital city, and that's around 100 kilometers away from the province. So we talk with our partners, and they send the coffee to us directly to our storage facility, which is also my home, and then um, we have given a special room in my home to make sure that the coffee is sanitized, to make sure that the coffee is well stored and all that. And so when the coffee arrives, people can start ordering our coffee either through Instagram or this e-commerce platform called Shopee. So that's where people order our coffee online. When an order arrives, Ate Mercy packs our orders, so I tally them on our sheet, and then after a day, a courier service will pick up our coffee and deliver it to our customers. So the whole process of ordering your coffee and waiting and arriving to your doorstep is only about a day and a half. So
That's good.
if you live within the capital city and its neighboring cities, then it would only take you a day and a half. If you live from the province, then probably 3 to 4 days, but it still is fast. And to make sure that the coffee will be as fresh as it was when we first grind it for you, our packaging, we really invested with our packaging. So first, we make sure that our packaging is opaque to make sure that the oils from the coffee will remain inside the coffee beans until you brew it. And then our packaging is sealed with a foil lining to make sure that no light enters our packaging. We then seal it and make sure that it's sealed twice with a heat press so that no air would enter your package. So when you open your coffee, it would still be the same aromatic and fresh coffee the way we prepared it for you. So that's how
That's
we do it.
That's so exciting. And I'm looking forward to putting in an order in the nearest future. I think I'm excited about it. How you can get
Yes,
that.
don't worry, Jacob. I think we're doing our best to come up with a solution on leaving the e-commerce platform Shopee and
Mhm.
eventually establish our own website so that it will be easier for people to order even overseas. So we're still praying and we're still working hard to make sure that happens in the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I can't wait for that. And is there? I'm guessing there's an education piece to this because I know we had talked about this kind of a while ago, but just the types of coffee you're making. You have different brands. Can you just share a little bit about the different brands of the coffees you have, and
Mhm.
also if there any education element to it, right? Because I think it has some economic friendly, environmental friendly, conscious aspects to it as well. If you can share a little bit
Yes.
about that.
So actually, we produce four types of coffee. We don't produce four types of coffee. We sell four types of
So
coffee
coffee.
rather. So we have what we call the robusta, and then we have the arabica, and then we have the excelsa, and then the last part is we have the um, Liberica, but in our local language we call it Barako. So Barako means strong.
Yes.
So what we like about our products as well is how innovative we get, and how innovative my best friend and I got in making sure that we try to teach people a little something every time they order. So for example, um, when you order one of our boxes, it comes in this instruction manual, and in the instruction manual is a little trivia about the coffee you're drinking. So, for example, if you order one whole box, there is described the four types of coffee. So, let's say, for example, Robusta. So, Robusta is in our selection, it has the highest caffeine content. So, it has 50% more caffeine than other coffees. So, when people end up asking us on our messages like, hey guys, I need coffee but I want it to be strong because Jacob, we've had so many customers in the front line. Like, we've had nurses, we've had doctors, and they really asked us what type of coffee will keep us awake. And with that, we are confident. All right, the coffee for you, ma'am, sir, is Robusta coffee because it has 50% more caffeine. And then um, the next type of coffee is Excelsa. So Excelsa coffee actually grows in this part of Southeast Asia, and it's known for its distinct flavor, and it's a bit woody. It's a smoky flavor, but at the end of it, you'd have this fruity aftertaste, which is very interesting. The cousin of this coffee bean is called Liberica. So for Liberica coffee, this is the most known coffee bean in the Philippines because we call it Kapeng Barako here in the country. So when people from the province know about coffee, they automatically assume it's Barako coffee. So the Liberica beans boast in its smoky and woody taste. So it's a very bitter type of coffee. It's very dark and it's very strong. So that's how Barako coffee is. And the last type of coffee that we sell is pure Arabica. So pure Arabica is the most famous type of coffee in the world. If I could mention brands in this podcast, for example, like Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, they mostly use Arabica coffee for their iced coffees, just except if you order like Ethiopian coffee beans or like that. So the Arabica coffee are known around the world because it's very fruity and aromatic. It's very smooth. It's like you enjoying your iced coffee in Napa Valley in the summer. Like that's how Arabica coffee feels. So whenever we sell our coffee, we make sure that we put a little interesting thing in our packages to make sure that something keeps them going. So we have active QR codes in each of our packagings. And then whenever we give them orders, sometimes, for example, we have loyal customers. Sometimes I put up a few extra bags of coffee drips to remind them, and then because every order comes with a personalized message, and sometimes when they put an extra bag, I just tell them like, we hope that you pay it forward, and we hope that you pay it forward, and we hope that we will be with you on your journey. Because for Magiting Coffee, we always have this hashtag. It's called hashtag Brave Mornings,
Mm.
hashtag Fearless Steps, hashtag Daily Grind. So
Oh
these
man.
hashtags would like remind you like this is the coffee that helps you wake up in the morning.
Hmm.
This is the coffee that helps you go through your overnight shift if you're a frontliner.
Mm-hmm.
This is the coffee that helps you calm down before a very for a very nerve wracking meeting. So this is Magiting Coffee. So whenever we send a thank you card, it always says, "We're here to support you on your daily grind. And we're here to remind you that every fearless step starts with a brave choice." And
Mm-hmm.
that brave choice is Magiting Coffee Manila. So
Yeah.
we always, like, it's a very simple way of reminding people that you are capable of things. And even if you feel like no one is supporting you right now, even if you feel like you're not the best in your field, well, Magiting Coffee is here to remind you that every fearless step starts with a brave choice, and that brave choice starts now, and we are supporting you on that brave choice. And I think that's part of our impact. It's like something we've been very proud of as well.
JJ, I love that you're on this podcast. It's incredible. Seriously, it's well thought out. It's inspiring. I'm getting motivated. I need that coffee, man, every morning. To be honest, I need that
Okay,
every
so
morning.
while we're thinking of a way to ship you coffee, what I'll do is I'll send you photos of our thank you cards,
Yeah,
so you can see what I'm talking about. It's a
definitely.
very small and simple thank you card, but really, when you receive it,
Mm,
I feel like it's a part of our fulfillment that the customer gets to read a personalized message, a
mm,
simple quote, and I think sometimes someone just needs just that simple of a push,
yeah,
to make it for every day.
exactly, exactly. Are you guys currently looking for investment? You can pitch it here in the podcast. Or probably in the nearest future. So
Yes, of course.
definitely. So now just shifting a little bit gears, and as you know, here you've clearly given us like a full picture of what the Coffee Malina is. And just wanted to get now into some, just on your understanding of the Philippines. This podcast is
Mhm.
called Time for Emerging Markets, and I just wanted to ask, what's your current assessment of, based on what you've been running? I know you have done APY, you've done, some really
Mhm.
great social platforms, being part of great social platforms, Planet, and now you're doing Hibla Community. What's your current assessment of the financial, human, and social capital in the Philippines now? And just give us your take on it, and kind of your experience
Mhm.
of that in the Philippines or maybe in Asia.
So, I think I would best answer this question
Mm,
using a little bit of my expertise in youth
exactly.
employment and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, I think when it comes to the assessment of these three factors,
Mm,
for the case of the Philippines, we've been slowly welcoming the concept of incubating startups. That has been one of the uh, emerging trends here for young people, because
yeah.
I personally appreciate that, because most of the time young people don't know that they actually have an opportunity to grow because these opportunities are not presented to them.
Mm, mm,
So these days, startups are actually made available for young people, so that they could start up their own business, they could incubate their business. And it takes like it really takes a lot of effort to start up a business, and to be able to be mentored
mm,
by experts in the field. That's a very good opportunity. Like, as a matter of fact, um, recently my small team and I was able to win the YSEALI seeds funding for futures of the 2021 program. So this
yes.
is a program by the US Department of State, the
Yep.
US mission to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and the US
Amazing.
Embassy. So YSEALI is the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. So this is what I've been talking about.
Yep.
There are all it's starting to become a trend where young people are already seeing that there are a lot of opportunities for them to venture on, so that they could also thrive in their own community.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think as we look into you know the sustainable development goals, our 2030 goal,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very positive thing for us to see that young people are starting to thrive in this economic field as well. Young
Yep.
people are now slowly being educated to financial literacy and business, and I think it's an important factor for development. It's
Yep.
like uh, young people should always be seen as partners in development rather than they are beneficiaries. That
Exactly.
if there's one thing that I would always hear in meetings with my previous jobs and in going to conferences, that's one thing that we should always be reminded of, that young people should also be empowered to become partners in development. And I think um, I don't have the exact statistics on this
Mhm.
on the Philippines per se, but on based on my experience with working for the development sector in the Philippines, I think non-government organizations and private sectors in partnership with the public sector have been doing a great job on empowering young people in communities, and I
Mhm.
think that's also a very good progress, you
That's
can say.
excellent response. So excellent. So good. So good. So good. So excited.
You're so kind, Mr. Jacob.
No, I'm serious. Really good. So the last question, and I have like just two more questions actually. Can you just
Mhm,
talk a little bit about your co-founder? I know it sounds like someone that's really helped shape,
mhm.
I think it was something that would be nice to give her a shout out because I think she has been
Of course, like actually, I was telling her about this, but she really wanted to make it today. Although, as you can see, Mr. Jacob, it's 2:35 in the morning, and she also has a job to attend to the next day. Although she really wanted to say hello and to give a few points of her. So what I did was just to incorporate our story and to make sure that it would be spread out. So my partner is actually who also turns out to be my best friend for about maybe two to
awesome.
3 years now, and it's been a crazy ride with her because um, just like what I've mentioned, we are very different people, but we
Mhm.
have the same goals. So just to give you a background, she's also been into the development sector for probably longer than I have been, maybe 3 to 4 years in the development sector. And I think we should cheer her because she is currently finishing her master's in political economy
Oh,
in international relations and
mm,
development. So I think she's been doing a good job, and um, I think I wouldn't have it any other way.
yeah.
When it comes to starting this business, knowing that I am the type of person to believe in my friends, to believe in other people, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
Like her name is Janella, so we can call
Oh,
her Ella,
Allah.
and yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. Ella is the perfect person to actually work with, because usually you know how friends don't usually work together. It's
Yep.
like friends don't usually start businesses together, but with Ella it's different because
Mhm.
there's this trust between the two of us that we are ready to face whatever challenge Hibla community might allow us to face in the future. And I think that's very important, to make sure that you have friends who are also your support system. You have friends who are authentic enough to tell you and give you pieces of advice, and you have friends to make sure you're all right. Because
Yeah.
to be honest, Jacob, like
Yeah.
this whole thing just sounds so fancy right now.
Yeah.
But there are just days when it's a very dull day.
Yeah.
There are days when we don't want to get up. There are days when we don't want to pack orders because there's just so much of it.
Mhm.
But at the end of it all, what keeps you going is you know that you have like a person beside you to remind you of why we're here and why we're doing it. So
Exactly.
Ella, if you are listening this, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of the both of us.
Shout out to Ella. This is beautiful, and you're definitely a part of the story. And I'll definitely love to have both of you guys back sometime in the future. So, Ella,
Yes,
it'll be a pleasure to
I
have
think
you.
in the future. And you know what, Jacob? What we really love is how we complement each other. Like for example, I am very let's just say I have this specific um, need
Yeah,
of help when it comes to mathematics. So
yeah.
when it comes to numbers, I really just quit when it comes to numbers. And for some reason, Ella is so good in finance. and all that. So,
Yes.
but on the other hand, when she's focused on the financial aspect and the legal aspect of our business,
Yep.
I, on the other hand, am focused on product development, on business development, on how we could further transition to a full scale social enterprise model. So
Yes.
I love it. I love the idea of us working together because we are not eating each other's positions,
Yep.
because we have our own designations where we work perfectly. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
once again, support system synergy is very important when it comes to, especially when you're a young entrepreneur.
Amazing. Ella, thank you so much for your hard work and being a great partner to build this community. It's great. I think it's really inspiring and just crazy to think, having that synergies, brought to life and building something this successful is just incredible. So thank you so much. And our last question, as a budding entrepreneur, can you please share with us, the listeners and myself included as well, the mindset that you have developed over time and how that has helped you build this business in the Philippines? What has been like your routine? What has been something that's kept you proactive and something that has made you to really get something from an idea into this?
Well, I think to answer that, I would use the quote that we have at the back of our thank you cards. So the
Mm.
mindset would be, every fearless step starts with a brave choice.
Oh
It's
wow.
always like that. I think that is the core of everything I've been doing these days.
Mm. Mm.
You know how
I
when you
love that.
start a business and
Mhm.
you start it in the middle of a pandemic,
Yes.
you just know it's going to be one crazy ride, right? You just know that it's like, even before starting the business, you already have the anxiety and paranoia of it failing into dust because it's in the middle of a pandemic. But then again, you would never know until you try. And
Exactly.
I encourage every entrepreneur who would end up listening this, if you are, especially to the young people, to my fellow youth, if you will be listening to this towards the end of this podcast, that's one thing I would like to remind you. Every fearless step starts with a brave choice. And by a brave choice, I don't mean a random whim, By a brave choice, I mean a choice that you have thought of carefully, a choice that you have um, really uh you have really thought of, especially with the impact that you would eventually create. So I think uh that's one thing that I've been putting my mind on. So, like, as a mindset, I think that's one thing that we should always develop. Now, the
Yeah.
fact that even if we're young people, even if we're young entrepreneurs, we have to remind ourselves that we are capable of great things. And, like, we may not be the generation who saved the economy from the Great Depression, saved the people from, saved the economy when the housing housing stock market, I still remember that from New York, I think, right? The stock
Yeah.
market fell down. We may
Yes.
not be that generation, but what
Yes.
we could do is we could effectively add value to what these people have thought of, and make sure that our contribution would be as important and as recognized around the
Yes.
world. So I think
Yes.
that's, I hope, to anyone who would be listening to this, I hope you keep that in your mind. Every fearless step starts with a brave choice. And you make sure that that brave choice will not only impact you, but the people around you, and eventually, hopefully, by prayers, the generation that would come after you.
Oh man, young and wise, young and a trendsetter, young and truly, 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 truly inspired. I'm inspired by this conversation we've had, and I'm 100% sure that people who listen to this podcast will definitely, definitely, definitely feel connected to your story and will really, 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 really feel engaged and committed to follow your work, and definitely, definitely they're going to be a trendsetter in the Philippines and perhaps around the world. So JJ, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. And I
Thank
think just to remind people that
Sure.
even I myself I still am a work in progress. There's still so many best practices that I have to remind myself of doing, and there are still so many points to improve on. But then again, that's the essence of living, right?
Mhm.
That's the
Exactly.
essence of more than being alive. You know, you have to live.
Exactly.
So it's part of the journey. So I hope that yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here today. This is my first podcast ever, and I know that there are still a lot of points to improve on, and
Yes.
on me entering a podcast. But I hope that this will start. I hope that this will spark conversation. I hope that this will inspire people who are wanting to be entrepreneurs. I hope this will inspire young people who have been dreaming of doing something. Uh, I think before I finally give back the floor to Jacob as you close
No,
this podcast,
please go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll share one thing that my professor for political thought told our class maybe 3 years ago, and it goes like, you don't actually have to change the whole world.
Mhm.
What you have to do is change your side of the world. You know how us in the development sector, especially for a rookie like me from
Mhm.
a year ago,
Mhm.
when I think about development sector, I always had the superhero mindset. Like, hey, I'm going to save the whole world, and I'm going to save the whole of Asia. It's like it's always the big aspect. But
Yes.
what I realized eventually is, hey, my professor is right. I
Mhm.
don't really need to change the whole world, but what I need to do is change my side of the world and make
Mhm.
sure that that impact is not assumed, make sure that that impact is relevant, and eventually the side of the world that I changed would later on do their part and eventually contribute to the whole thing.
Beautiful.
So yes, that's it, guys. Don't be pressured to change the whole world, because we can't do that.
Yeah.
Although it is our responsibility to change our side of the world. And how will you do that? Well, that's a question for you to answer. You don't have to answer it to us, but that's a question you have to keep yourself asking every single time if you want to do something great.
Man, why is there just so much wisdom here? Just dropping in like like hip hop beats, right? Yeah.
God has been good to
Just
grace us
drop
with
it,
wisdom.
just dropping it, just dropping the bars. No, keep on dropping. JJ, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, and to all the listeners out there, JJ is the one of the co-founders of Hibla Community with Ella, and it's such a pleasure to have him. I will definitely have him again in the future to keep up to date with what he's doing. And please, I will have all the links to all the his profile, as well as to the community, as well as to the coffee too, as well. So please check that out, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.